Hello and welcome to another video from RiderCamTV.
Here we are.
Here with Mark and Toby.
In my t-shirt, RiderCamTV t-shirt.
And in my top and drinking from our cup. You can get merchandise from our site. See the link.
Well worth buying, I think.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Great. That's odd.
Anyway, we're talking about the fact that I've been signed off as a tutor. For RoSPA, and I've got hidden away this cunning disguise.
That's almost like we hadn't planned that.
Look, it says tutor.
Tutor.
Yeah, for RoSPA Cornwall. How cool is that?
You happy?
No, I hate it. No, really happy. Really happy.
We're really chuffed because we are a bit short.
Oh, not because of who I am. It's because I haven't got enough.
Absolutely not.
No, I'm really enjoying it. I didn't think that I'd enjoy it so much because every time I go out on the bike, I'm learning as well. It's not just about somebody else learning, is it?
How long has this process taken you?
Oh gosh.
We started. It was in between lockdowns and things, wasn't it? So we were on lockdown 503.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's taken 2 or 3 months.
Oh, more than that.
Because I've been out 6 or 7 times with Mark and a guy called Chris, who is the membership officer. Is that what they call him? Membership officer.
He's an advanced tutor, such as like myself, but he does all the. He's like the lead, the head shed, the grand wizard, the grand vizier,
the grand Pumbaa. We could go on.
RoSPA Cornwall motorcycle riders side of it. So you know.
Yeah. So
I reckon it's got to be 3 or 4 months. It's
got to, because we can't go out every day, but the days that we did go out were filled with quite a lot. So I went out with Chris and with you, and when we were out with Chris, because he's got associates like you have, I would go along and watch what Chris was doing with his associates, and then I would then run the session with his associates, with him casting his beady eye.
No.
Or his knowledgeable eye and steering me in the right direction. So it's taken a long time, but I really like it because there are other groups and there are other ways of training people, but I like the fact that you kind of do it on the job, if you like.
But in RoSPA, particularly down here in Cornwall, we when we train a new tutor, we get the basics done first with you, so the meeting and greeting and all the paperwork side of stuff, and just get you so you understand how it all works, and then you get an associate to take from zero to hero.
Yeah.
Which I think is the best way to do it, because other groups you do all your training without actually meeting an associate, and the first time you get an associate is when you've been qualified, and then you start learning.
Yeah, it's like riding a bike, isn't it? You know, you learn to ride.
Go on, how are you going to get that analogy out?
Well, you get to the point where you pass your test, but then you start learning, don't you? Because you make mistakes.
I ran a motorbike. I thought you were talking about a push bike.
Well, that too. But I've really liked the whole process of, there was a structured interview that I had to get through that was kind of with you, Chris, and the chair of the group in Cornwall, Rob, anyway. But that was really good.
Strange name, Rob, anyway.
But it was really good, so you got through that. Then I had all those sessions out with Chris, and I've got like that we do for our associates. You have a program of things. Every ride you do, or every bit of training you do, you have a write-up about it. So I've got a whole history of my learning from not being a tutor to being a tutor. We get assessed every 3 years. We get QA'd every now and then from people like you and Chris, who also get QA'd by other people. So there's that ongoing training. It's not something that you've
really
trained and just left.
It's important to know that all the tutors in our group are all teaching to the same standard, and that's done by doing QA checks on them. And it's not to make sure, keep an eye on them, just to make sure that we're all speaking from the same handbook, which we are, Roadcraft, but we're getting it over in the right way. We've got a pretty good record with passes as well, so that's we've got a very good record actually, and that's a good thing.
But when in that training, Mark and Chris both played stooges. So by that I mean they were the associate, is what we call the person that's just joined RoSPA.
Got a big moustache.
Mushta. But So Chris and Mark were stooges at different times, and they would portray a different behaviour. So you'd have someone that was like really nervous, not confident on the bike, and then somebody who's overly confident, wants to make progress all the time, that's ragging the bike like mad. None of which broke any speed limits or was dangerous, but it was to highlight the differences of people that you would get as an associate, because you will get an associate that has just passed their test, that is very confident, that thinks they know the world, even though they know how to ride. We're teaching them a different way, or honing some of those skills, aren't we, to help them improve their ride and be safer and all that sort of jazz. But some people will be up to the speed limit within seconds, doing different things, overtaking and stuff, where perhaps it might not be the best place.
I've got to tell you, my very first associate came out for 3 rides with me and then resigned and sent me an email saying, "Thank you very much for your training." He said, "I've been riding 40 years, I've done over 100,000 miles, and you can't teach me anything." And you go, okay, well, if you remember, just remember like a small percentage of what we've taught you. I know you're going to be a safer rider, but all the time in the back of my head I was going, "You've been riding 40 years, you've ridden 100,000 miles," which is wrong.
But there will always be people that don't want to learn how to ride in a different style that may be safer. It's not about us saying that we're better riders, because we're not. I make mistakes all the time. It's not about us saying that we want to impart all of our great knowledge onto people who haven't got it, because that's not what happens. It's a journey that we take time to go on together. So I've got 2 associates at the moment, very different people, different confidence levels, different riding styles, different experience levels, and how the training that we do between both of those is very, very different. But it's about that journey that both of those are on with me, because I'm learning as well. And I found that since, like you were saying, learning to ride a bike, since I've been let loose and given 2 brand new associates that have started with me, I've started learning different things of how to explain things, and then changing my explanation style to meet their learning style and all that sort of stuff. And I remember when I was talking to some other tutors the other day, and I said, "Oh, I've got this guy," and one way I managed to get across something to him which surprised me was that I said, you're riding at the moment like you're driving a car, because you're following cars, you're not kind of looking far enough ahead, all of which has changed, by the way. He's a great rider. And I said, what I'd like to do is get that inner biker to show itself, because it's in there. And that kind of hit. So I think I'm learning skills all the time of how to explain things to students or associates, whatever you want to call them,
and everybody's different,
so that everybody understands.
Everybody's different. I spent a long time in the military, and for a lot of that time, the way things were explained to you, if it was explained once, and if you didn't understand it, they explained it again, but just a bit louder. And then if you still didn't understand it, they would then shout at you really, really loud, perhaps give you a punch as well. And if that didn't work, then they just blew up their red jacket, put their pith helmet on, and march away swiftly, assuming you understood it. And it's not like that.
No,
it never was like that. But it never should have been like that. But times have changed, I suppose. We have to be very aware of how people react, and they all learn differently.
Well, and the other thing to be is people have paid to be on the course. Now, we don't get paid for any of it; it's voluntary, and some weekends, some evenings we're out. I mean, certainly weekends, some Saturdays I'll be out from like 9 in the morning and get home at 5 in the evening. I'm not getting paid anything. But
let's get that sat nav fixed.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's rerouting and giving me some amazing adventures. But none of us do it for the money, and none of us do it. And I'm quite confident in speaking about all the tutors all of our tutors, because I know them. We're not doing it to be better than anybody else. We're doing it to try and stop people having accidents and try and just help people understand that being an advanced rider isn't about being a 70-year-old man in an RT. because there may be 70-year-old men on RTs that aren't old fuddy-duddies, but the old fuddy-duddy type stigma that's been applied to the IAM, RoSPA or advanced riders for a long, long time, it really needs challenging, because everybody that's in RoSPA and the IAM are all committed to just riding better, aren't they? There's big communities of people that come together, and we've got young riders, we've got lady riders, we've got men riders, we've got old people from all different walks of life, some retired people from the military, we've got doctors and dentists, and we've got people that used to drive lorries, police officers, people that work for the ambulance service, people that work in Tesco's. It doesn't matter, it's about the riding, isn't it?
But we do have a problem of getting younger people in, and there is like a stigma. You've already mentioned it. That to be starting to do advanced riding, you've got to have a bit of time on your hands to be able to do it. Yeah. Which the assumption is you have to have the time. Yeah. Well, we're so flexible; anyone can do it. But how do you get a guy who's just done his
or a girl?
Or girl. We need more ladies. We really do. How do you get a person who's just passed the direct access test, is in, let's say their 20s, invincible? You've just taught me, I know how to ride a bike, I can do this, goes out and buys a crazy road bike with very, very basic skills. How do you get them to be inspired enough to come and do an advanced riding course, which will make them better, safer riders? I'd like to know. I'd like people's ideas, actually, because we need to get people involved in that.
I mean, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? But put your ideas down below. But we go to lots of different bike nights and bike things, and we're heavily involved with the blood bikes. We know our local direct access and CBT training centres and people that own and run those companies. We've got good relationships with most of them, so that they know that they're there. We go to Bike Safe, but then that's already an audience that is looking at doing it. It's one of those things, isn't it? I think it's probably something that's going to change in time, because lots of our members and riders of both RoSPA and the IM are getting younger and younger, aren't they? They're not all of these old people, which there's nothing bad about that, but people will see younger people. Well, it's true though, isn't it? That's how people think of it, and our group is starting to fill up with younger people, and I think thinking about not enticing, that sounds sexual predator-ish, doesn't it? But
you've stopped that now, haven't you?
But thinking about how to attract ladies of all ages, of all professions, to come and do the same sort of training, I think is going to have the same effect. It's about, we've got several ladies now that are really enjoying it. Some of them can ride much better than men, some of them can't. Some men can ride much better than women, some of them can't. They're just as accomplished at everything that as men are. I think, and we've got some really, really good ladies in there. I think that will be good advocates for the.
Brilliant.
For
I think the statistics in the UK are something like about motorcycles are 1% of the traffic on the UK roads, but account for, I think, I might be wrong, but I think it's about 26% of all the accidents. So that clearly states that there are a lot of bad motorcycle riders out there. You see videos, there are bad car drivers, bad truck drivers, bad drivers, but there's a lot of bad motorcyclists.
But having said that, do you not think that talking, and I know that you're not spouting figures, but talking about the percentage of bikers on the road and the percentage of deaths, that's what the police do, the ambulance do, the fire service do, the council do, anybody in any authority, any group of people do, to try and justify why you should join. Perhaps our whole ethos should be, these are the facts and figures, but actually, if you came and saw what it's like to be part of a bigger group of people, that there's always someone for you to ride with. So you might be living on your own, you might be widowed, you might be married, you might need that outlet for some extra friends that have got a shared mutual interest. That's one positive about being in the IM or the RoSPA. And then you've got things like, well, do your advanced thing, because insurance and stuff may go down, but also your enjoyment of that ride will go up further and further, and before you know it, your experience level and your riding ability is far beyond what you thought it might be. Some people might take that too far and think that they are better than they are, because we all do that from time to time. But perhaps we should focus on, rather than the number of deaths against percentages of people on the road, how much enjoyment that you can get from being part of such a nice group and doing different stuff.
And also, I've had loads of associates come through, and you see them with bikes and you go, are you happy with that bike? One guy in particular, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I met him at a hub, and he turned upon this bike,
which is one of our Saturday monthly hub things where anybody's invited to come along.
And he was on this monstrous bike, and just looking at him, he was really wobbly, and he was like, and I said, is that the bike for you then? Because it's a really nice bike. It was a Harley Davidson. And he went, actually, he said, I don't like it. He said, I just don't think it's the right bike for me. I went, all right, okay, so we'll have a chat anyway. And we did the hub. This is a guy who arrived wobbling really unsteadily on the bike.
Yeah.
2 hours later, he was riding around cones, doing figure of eights.
In a 6
metre square. Yeah. He was riding the internal circumference of the 6 metre square of the 4 cones. Couldn't get his hat off. At the end of it, he was smiling that hard, and he was like, no, it's a fantastic bike. To be able to do that as a tutor, I think is fantastic.
And you know, the enjoyment of your ride, I think, should be the selling point of doing the advanced course. Not only staying alive, all that's really important, but the enjoyment and the knowing that you've got some ability to ride. And I'm not knocking people that haven't done it, by the way, but I can remember going through some twisty bends on the way to a place called Truro in Cornwall after doing my direct access. Now, nothing bad about the people that were taking me on my direct access, but lots of these places didn't then tell you what camber steering was. So I was going round corners, and I'm thinking, how do these bikes go round these corners faster than I'm going? And I wasn't trying to break the speed limit, because as I was going around the corner, I was getting further and further out towards the hedge, because I didn't know what counter steering was. I just didn't know. I was basically steering like that. And I remember how scared and how worried I was that I just wouldn't get round the corner. And then you start slowing down and your confidence takes a hit. And that's quite a few years ago, but looking back from those eyes when I was just doing it or just passed my test, only a couple of years, having done that course, I understood what counter steering was, and I could go round that corner and not worry about coming off. But if something happened, I'd kind of know what to do or be able to put something in place to stop me coming off.
The trick is now, as a tutor, you've got to get that message across to somebody.
Yeah. And
who's in your situation.
Yeah, and it's
the
really
direct
tough.
access course, you know, when you pass it, you're safe to ride a bike, and that's the good thing about it.
Yeah.
All we're saying about advanced riding is it makes you safer, perhaps, if you ride in that fashion.
Yeah.
But the challenge of being a tutor is working out how that person absorbs the information, how you can get them to do what you want to do, because they're doing something they don't necessarily like doing initially, because they're riding in their comfort zone. You're trying to get them to ride outside it, perhaps. And it can be quite difficult, but it's a real feeling, nice feeling when they all clicks and you go,
oh, it's amazing.
You're not even thinking about that.
It's amazing. Do you know, I went out with one of my associates, and we're riding to a place called St Mawes. If ever you get the chance to come to Cornwall and go to St Mawes is a lovely place, but more importantly, the road getting to there and the way back out is just amazing. It's one of the best roads in Cornwall, I think. Anyway, so we're riding along. There's lots of twisty bends, and I'm following my associate and thinking, this isn't right. Are they okay? Anyway, we got to St Mawes, and my associate got off the bike and said, I don't know what's happened. My head's all over the place, you know. And I explained, you know, on a learning journey, you'll take 2 steps forward, and very often we'll take a step back, and then we'll lose a bit of confidence, and we need to build that back up and do it again. So we had a chat, and it was on the left-hand bends that we were kind of really slowing down and things were falling apart. And we, through chatting, I worked out that it was because of the positioning. So the associate was we split the road into 1, 2 and 3, 1 being inside near the curb, 2 being in the middle, where most people on direct access will ride because it's the safest place to be for that test. And then position 3 out by the white of the road, or the middle of the road, crest of the road. On left-hand bends, my associate was riding in position 2 nearly everywhere on those bends, so couldn't see around the corner. And we talked about limit points and how to go round corners and counter steering, and I had that associate waving at me, or really happy because now they were able to go around these corners a little bit better. And it hit me that it was the confidence of being, rather than in the middle of the lane, but being towards the outside of the lane, because they were really worried about cars coming round the other side. And when we talked about what you could do, because you could see them a lot sooner before they've seen that you're a bike and you can come in and you've got the whole of that road to come in, the ride back was insanely great. It was like somebody else had got into the associate's body and just rode, and that's just improved and improved. And I tell you what, at the end of the session, it may be like 3 or 4 hours that you're out with them, but when they've learned something and they've enjoyed it and you've enjoyed it together, it's such a great feeling. It's amazing.
Would you recommend becoming a tutor to anybody?
No.
Okay.
No, 100% I would. I really would. If you're a person that's really passionate about riding, about furthering advanced riding for all the reasons that we've spoken about, which has got the offset of hopefully reducing deaths and all of that sort of stuff, which is what RoSPA stand for anyway, and you're really interested in people and want to meet people, and that's the biggest thing for me. And I said that in the interview, didn't I?
Yeah.
That the biggest reason that I wanted to join as a tutor, or wanted to be a tutor, is because when I'd started riding, I met you, I met all the blood bikers, became a blood biker, all that sort of stuff. Most of my friends on the bike are different than friends at work. So I've got that total different section of friends. I've never had the experiences that I've had in the last few years without being a biker. So I would say get out there and do it if you want to. But also,
you have to understand that it is a commitment.
Oh, it's quite a heavy commitment.
What it definitely isn't is just another badge.
No.
And I've seen that in other organisations where it's, I've done this, and it's just about badge wearing, collecting another T-shirt. Yeah. This is a real commitment, I think. If you just want to do it to say, yes, I've done this course and I'm a tutor and I'm an observer, and you're not the right person for it.
Yeah.
You have to be able to get out there and put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
It's quite a selfless thing to do, I suppose, and I'm not putting us on a pedestal, but I get something out of every time I take an associate out, because if they're new associates, I've met someone new. If we've managed to learn together and they've picked up something new, or they've enjoyed something, then I come away with that satisfaction. The biggest satisfaction, I think, will come from when we've got to the stage where they're ready for their test and I put them forward and they get through their test. And talking about this badge thing, one thing that we do in RoSPA in Cornwall, I'm sure it's echoed across the country, is that a pass is a pass. You get your RoSPA silver, bronze, silver and gold, don't you? But we won't publicise and say, well, you got a gold or you got a silver. A pass is a pass. We'd love everybody to get a gold, but it's not about that badge. It's about making sure that we've got the safest people on the road to have the best time that they could possibly have with their bike.
To be honest, the difference between getting a gold, silver or bronze is about a cigarette paper width. So it's not pointless, but it's, if you're going to beat yourself up because you didn't get a gold, or you beat yourself up because you didn't get a silver, or whatever, it's just it's a waste of energy.
There's always a positive, because if you get a bronze or a silver and you really wanted a gold, in 3 years' time you get retested and you could get a gold then.
You've got 3 whole years. If you're in the IEM, you can join the fellowship, where you can sign up and get tested every 3 years. But that's an optional thing. It's not a compulsory thing. In RoSPA, if you want to stay part of RoSPA, you have to be be tested every 3 years.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Happy then?
we are inclusive. So, RoSPA Cornwall, search it on Google if you're in Cornwall.
Obviously.
If you're in a different area, obviously search for your local group. There will be a contact there. Get hold of them. They're not full of people that are unapproachable. If they're anything like our group, the second that you get hold of us and that you ask to join, you're a member of the group. You can also come to Cornwall with our hubs. We do them every month and different things during the year. If you want to come and see what it's about, come and meet people, then you're welcome to just turn up, aren't you?
Yeah.
And then from there, if you want to join, you're a member of the group. You know?
And I do know that RoSPA have helped in other countries around the world. Certainly I know for definite in Australia, set up other organisations out there. So it's worth looking around.
Yeah.
Worth doing, definitely worth doing.
And you can do it on any bike. You haven't got to have a BMW.
You've just got to be able to maintain the speed limit.
Yeah.
Oh, be a problem on the Autobahn.
Well, they've still got speed. No, it's not speed limit on the autobahn, but there is a recommended speed on it, isn't there?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can do it on that.
Yep. Anyway.
Yeah, set up
Happy
your
with
chaff. Yeah, so have a look at your local group. If you're inclined, there's IAM. We're talking about RoSPA. We're a bit biased because we're part of RoSPA. We think it's an amazing charity. Certainly in Cornwall, we've got an amazing group of people, both associates, people that have passed that are members, as well as tutors and advanced tutors and whatever else we've got. It's a great place to start. Go and have a look. Even if you turn up, there's no obligation to pay for it. You'll always be welcome. So go and have a look, see what it means to you, see what you think about it, and don't go in with the idea that they can't teach you anything, because we can all be taught anything. The moment I say to myself, I know everything, is the moment I just don't ever get back on my bike.
Yeah.
So check it out. Give us a thumbs up. I'm now a tutor. How great is that?
Cool as you like.
Hit the subscribe button and we'll see you in the next video. Well,
there we go, mate.
it's
Third time lucky, eh?
Oh my God, don't say that. It is surprising how much we can talk.